Hi, I'm Keith Smart, Indiana University basketball player, graduate of Indiana University, assistant coach with the Arkansas Razorback, remembering the great sports.
Remember the great sports here, located in downtown Evansville, Indiana. And today, and tomorrow actually, I'm here for the weekend, they are having a Indiana Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony here at the Old National Events Plaza in downtown Evansville. And this event is taking place this year in 2022 because it was canceled in 2020 and 2021. So there's actually 3 years worth of inductees coming to this event center this weekend. So as the autograph collector that I am, naturally I came all the way to Evansville, Indiana just to attend this. So stay with me. I will show you some pictures when we get on the inside and hopefully some of the celebrities that are here in attendance. All right, so I am inside the exhibit hall here in the, I guess, convention center or whatever you want to call it. So I'm going to go in and just show you how big of a ballroom this is. There are some people setting up in here, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot and narrate. I'm just going to kind of give you an idea how big of an event this is. And I just hope I have some good autographing results out of this. We'll see. So when you walk in here, they're setting up and you can just see how many tables are in here. Huge amount. There's some memorabilia on the back wall there. I'll go past that a little bit later after the people are, done walking around inside here. But you can see the stage up there and everything else. So anyways, here we go.
And he would become inducted into the Kentucky Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2014. Folks, he now resides with his 4 kids down in Houston, Texas. We are thrilled that he came back to the Hoosier State for us tonight. Would you please welcome a 2021 inductee to the Indiana Sports Hall of Fame, the great Mark Clayton.
Thank you all, thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank God for always showing me favor, because Lord knows, for without Him, I never would have made it. Second of all, I'd like to thank the other inductees going into their respectful classes, 2020, 2021, and 2022. Well deserved. Big fan of you guys. I don't even really know where to begin. I'm not really a man of many words, so I'm going to be really brief and try to give you guys a brief synopsis of my growing up and me making it to the NFL. I was listening to Carl's story, and it sounds like that we had similar paths, because me coming out of high school, I wasn't highly recruited. Even though I thought I had a very good high school career. We lost a total of 5 games in my 4 years there at Cathedral. So coming out of Cathedral, all city, all state, I thought that I would get offers throughout the country to play football. But it wasn't even like that, because at that time, coming out of high school, I think I was like about 150 pounds, soaking wet with rocks in my pockets. So really didn't get much looks from the big universities. But probably my 2 offers that I got coming out of high school, I probably went to a game and saw Carl play, because it was one school was Indiana State. So I went to a game when they were on my visit there and got to see Larry Bird play, and you also too, Carl. I'm like, wow, Indiana State. So my other offer that I got was from the University of Louisville. I said, okay, that's a little better. And as also like Carl, I took my first plane trip from Indianapolis to Louisville, which was the fastest flight in the world. I think they didn't even really get a chance to serve any drinks, because we was telling us we got to come and collect what we passed out so far, because we're getting ready to land. Wow, what a fast trip to be my first airplane ride. But got to the University of Louisville, and really my freshman year I played. We wasn't a good football program at all. Louisville was a basketball school, so we kind of was just showing up really in front of 2,000 or 3,000 people in the stands. But we ran the ball, predominantly ran the ball my rookie season. My first 3 years we ran the ball until we got a big kid out of Tampa playing quarterback. He was 6'5", strong arm, could really throw the ball like nobody's business. A lot of times, us athletes and former athletes, when we get a chance to reminisce about how we played and what we did, that's why we get long-winded, because we start to feel that again. And we want that moment again, but obviously we know it's gone. And we try to look through our kids if they choose to play a sport or whatever they might particularly try to do. My kids play sports, my youngest son plays, and he's graduated last year from the University of Hawaii in December. And he's today started training camp with the Arizona Cardinals. So he's out there doing this thing. But he had a story with him, and I'll get back to the shots. But a story with him, he made a catch in a game. Jumped up. I could jump a little bit when I was in college. Just a little bit. So he makes this catch, this leaping catch, got a touchdown. And he said, Dad, I got you now. So I said, well, maybe you got me. At the same age, we probably jump the same height, So he comes home for Christmas break. He puts a piece of tape up on the ceiling, pretty close to the ceiling, I thought it was. And he said, Dad, I tell you what, if you can touch that tape, I'll never bother you again about getting my ears pierced and getting tattoos. And I said, so now I'm thinking I gotta touch this thing now, because I know what he wants to do. So I look up there, and I'm looking up. There's a pause, and I'm looking up. I'm not worried about getting up there. I'm worried about the landing. That's gonna be the problem. So I tried the first time to jump up. couldn't touch it. Tried again, couldn't touch it. Third time I just gave up. He ran around the house and said, I'm getting my ears pierced tomorrow. So I couldn't touch it. And he goes, I get my ears pierced, my tattoos. And I said, son, this is a life lesson. Sometimes people are going to tell you things and it won't be true. So no, you cannot get your ears pierced. But he ended up going off, and when he got off to college, he got everything done. So I get back to the one shot and D shot. A guy by the name of Lester Roberts saw me in the gym. I didn't play high school basketball, so that's no 5 stars. I broke my wrist my 3rd game into my season, and then I got cut my junior year, 3rd game into the season. Then I broke my wrist, and my high school career was over. My best friend was going out to Garden Community College, and that's how I got there. Went to school with him just as a student, and eventually had an open tryout at the end of that year, and I made the basketball team, and took off from there, and started playing. There was no way, when I started getting recruited by Indiana, that I was going to go to Indiana. Just didn't feel I could play in Indiana. Probably could not play for that young man that was coaching at Indiana when when my time was coming along. But somehow I chose Indiana to go to school there. I talked with Nolan Richardson because Arkansas recruited me as well. And I told him, he said, man, all the money we spent trying to coming out to see you at Garden City Community College, and you didn't come to Arkansas? And I said, well, Nolan, you're a great recruiter. It just took you 35 years to get me back here in Arkansas. So that was my journey from the one shot by a guy named Lester Roberts, who saw me play basketball, pick up basketball. And he looked at me and said, you have a t-shirt on that has can't miss. And I use this term with all the young kids that I'm talking to. You have one chance. You have a chance. You see can't miss on that shirt. And that was all I did. And a lot of us athletes probably had the same person pour some life into you and said that you can't miss. And I made a decision. I went to school, made the team, played out there, and obviously that one shot became the shot. And that one shot and the shot has been chasing me every day of my life. So every place I've gone, a lot of things have happened based on what I did in college and what I was able to do there in Indiana, graduate from Indiana, and then also have a chance, what every athlete wants to do one day is to have a chance to win a championship on whatever level, college, pro, high school, no matter what. And I was able to do that. Now I'm trying to pour the same thing into the young kids that I come in contact with. You know, many of you, how many of you watched the championship game at IU? I already got a few of them out here, okay? Well, I don't know if you paid attention. There was a timeout, there was a play. I was trying to throw the ball to Darryl Thomas. And God bless his soul, he's no longer with us now. But he made a curl cut to the basket. And you Indiana fans, you all know about these curl cuts. And he got held up. The ball fell out of bounds, a turnover. And now I can take him out of the game because Gerald didn't catch the ball. So I'm out of the game. Joby Wright, long-time assistant there, came up to me and said, hey, keep your head in the game. You're going to get back in this game. Keep your head in the game. I'm like, I don't know how to play a game. He said, you're going to get back in the game. But the game kind of, you know how it went, back and forth. And then finally, Coach Knight called me and said, are you ready to go back in the game? Now, no, if you go back and look at the game a little bit, you'll see prior to me entering that game, he's talking to me. What do you think that conversation was? All right, so that conversation kind of went, I'm giving you 2 minutes to go in and do something. If you haven't done anything in 2 minutes, I'm taking you out. And if I take you out again, I'm probably not putting you back in. And if I don't put you back in, I probably won't need you for next year. So everyone thought I was playing for a national championship. I was playing for my scholarship. So, but no, in all honesty, you know, I've enjoyed, you know, I was in Garden City 3 weeks ago. They put me in the Hall of Fame over there, and so all these memories all start coming back.
My basketball covered 8 decades. It sounds unreal, but my first coaching was 1959. In junior high. That's where I started. And then I'm still working. I'm vice president of the Mavericks Development League team. So I've been working all this time. decades, all 6 of them, and then the 50s and the 20s here. So I got stories. You don't want me to get started. I'm going to be here all night. But this one is very special to me for various reasons. But first of all, it's Indiana. My family moved here around 1820 on both sides of my family line. And they moved to southern Indiana. They moved to Spencer County, as a matter of fact. And so anybody named Harris or Whitten or Masterson or Howland or Winkler or Metcalf is possibly in any way related somehow or another to me. And I've got one distant cousin that's here that's that's a member of the 21 class, Bob Reinhardt, and through the Metcalfs, we're long-time distant cousins. We've been lifetime friends, along with Roger Kaiser, who's not here tonight, but he'll be inducted as well tomorrow night. But his grandson is playing for the state baseball championship in Atlanta, Georgia. So anyway, it's a tremendous honor also just to have my name, however loosely connected to some of the great names in Indiana sports of all kinds. I mean, we're talking about Wooden and Hodges and Roush, Robertson, Bird, Sloan, Mattingly. We've got all these fellows up here, the ones that have talked to you before, and more. And just to have my name associated with all these people is just unbelievable. In fact, that great elbow surgeon, Tommy John, it's a joke. My dad used to cut his hair some. So anyway, it's just an honor to be with all of you here. And again, I've got a niece here that I'm staying with and her husband. So this is wonderful. I reflect back to the war years, the big one, in 1942, and I was a 5-year-old boy, and I got my first basketball. A neighbor boy went off to the war, and they gave me his basketball. You couldn't buy him at that time. You know, you couldn't buy anything made of leather or rubber, or it was all, you know, those of you that are old enough know that you couldn't get meat or anything like that either. The things just went to the war effort. And so this ball was a little different than what you have today. It's a leather ball, but it had an opening in there where a rubber bladder went in, and then you laced up the opening with rawhide leather, and then you blew it up. And if you had a blowout, you took it out and passed it up, did it again. But if you ever bounced the ball against the dirt or pavement, whatever it was you're playing on the leather, well, you had to be good at the crossover because that ball was going to go somewhere other than what you intended it to do. So anyway, in the days after the war, basketball really took off and became tremendously popular, particularly in southern and central Indiana, where so many of the small towns were located. And the time that I was in school, in the 50s and then the 60s, were called the golden era of Indiana high school basketball.
Folks, he now resides in Indianapolis. Folks, would you please welcome simply, perhaps the finest center Indiana ever had, but one of the biggest and one of the best big men in America, period. Kent Benson, which I believe is
Good evening, folks. How y'all doing this evening? Fantastic. You're gonna ask me how I'm doing? Okay, I'll tell you. I'm blessed to God and highly favored. And I just want to say thank you so much to our Lord Jesus Christ for this opportunity. You know, when you look at all the inductees that have and will come across this stage, it's a tremendous honor for me and a blessing to be among those. You know, you've heard a lot of great stories here, and I'd like to share a little bit with you about my story. But most of you know and remember me from Indiana University and playing for a guy by the name of Bobby Knight. And Coach Knight was, no doubt, he was very bombastic, very intense and everything. But I learned a lot of things from Coach Knight. I learned about excellence. And when you talk about excellence, you talk about being able to be the very best that you can possibly be in everything that you do, in every way that you do it, no matter what it is. And Coach Knight constantly pressured us and pushed us to be the best that we could possibly be. You know, he would put us in situations where we would just get tired mentally and emotionally about it. But what he did, he was not only preparing us for the game of basketball, but he prepared us for the game of life, to face challenges and situations. And I know that most of y'all know that having dreams and goals is very important in your life. And it's very important to have those goals and dreams written down. But one of the most important things is to identify the obstacles or things that will help keep you from accomplishing those dreams and goals. And one of the things that I learned at Indiana University under Coach Knight, through all the pressure that he put me under, was the fact that there were times, and I'll never forget, the day in my freshman year, and I'd never been kicked out of the basketball practice or anything before in my life. And one day, Coach Knight kicked me out of practice. And I just tucked my tail and went into the locker room. I was madder than a homer. I mean, I about tore the locker room up. I was so mad that he had to come to a point of kicking me out of practice. And I vowed that would never ever happen again. And so, about 2 weeks later, guess what happened? They kicked me out again. This time I just turned and looked at him. I stepped off the court, turned my jersey around, inserted myself in on the second team. He never said a word. And for about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, anybody that came into that painted area, the only way they got up was either they picked themselves up off the floor or somebody else helped them up. Any ball that came off the backboard or through the basket was mine. And after about 10, 15 minutes, Coach Knight said, okay, Benny, he said, turn your jersey around, get back in on the first team. You see, that's exactly what he wanted me to do the first time, but he challenged me. And that was a huge point in my life. Another time I remember Coach Knight was very adamant about us being in great physical condition, and we were. We would run sprints all the time after practices and what have you. And for some reason, Coach got on a real tear and talked about how bad we were and how out of shape we were, which we weren't. We were one of the best conditioned teams, if not the best conditioned team in the country. And so Coach lines up. He says, my mother can outrun you guys. She's in better condition than you are. He says, in fact, I'm even in better condition than you are. He says, and I'll even prove it to you. So he lines up to run the suicide drill. And he says, go. And everybody goes. He takes about 3 steps, pulls his hamstring, goes down like somebody shot with an elephant. And as players, you know, I mean, he's wincing in pain, you know, and we as players just turn around and look at him and start laughing because we knew what he was going through and what he was thinking. But you know, other times, Coach would constantly pressure us to be the very best that we could possibly be.
He went to Kentucky. Folks, but it proved to be a very good move. For this talented man, after having it in those days, he sat out a year, and Kyle sat out the 1976-77 season. He then went on to a phenomenal career, a 3-time All-American. He was a consensus All-American in 1980, 3-time All-SEC, and he became the first Kentucky player to be an SEC Player of the Year. He was also a national champion in 1978. He was the Male Athlete of the Year in 1980. Chosen 22nd overall by Phoenix in the 1979 draft, he would play 7 seasons in the NBA with Phoenix, Chicago, and the Indiana Pacers. Folks, he coached at Morehead State from 1997 to 2006, and from 2016 to the present time, he's presently the assistant coach for Transylvania University, the Pioneers. Ladies and gentlemen, again, one of the best to ever dribble a basketball in this Hoosier state. Would you please welcome back to Evansville, Mr. Kyle Macy.
I grew up in Indiana, and I live in Lexington. So to soothe everybody, I wore my Tennessee shirt. I thought I was going hunting. Now, I'm very honored to be here. As Coach Harris was reminding me, which I'm very proud of, the 79 draft had a few guys you may have heard of, with Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Sid Moncrief. But unlike today, I went back for an extra year and spent my 5th year in college. Didn't have the NIL and the transfer portal and all those different things. But I was very fortunate to have the career I had. I'm very honored to be here tonight. I appreciate you all coming out and giving me this honor. I always enjoy coming to events like this because of the familiar faces you see. First person I saw when I walked in was Carl Nix. Carl and I hadn't seen Carl. Well, I see him when he comes through Lexington scouting the pro teams or the college players at one time. But I hadn't seen him since we were roommates on the 79 Pan American game tryouts at the old dorm. So it's always good to see a familiar face. Coach Harris, my father was a longtime basketball coach, NAIA coach, when I was growing up in Fort Wayne, Indiana Tech. And as you know, Coach was down in Berlin. But they knew each other, contacted each other. I know my father loved to write letters. He'd write Coach Wooden every year. Coach Wooden every year would respond. It may not be right away, but he always did respond to his letter. And so I thought that was neat. But Coach reminded me there was a sporting goods store in downtown Fort Wayne. I was probably 5 or 6 years old. Main Auto Sporting Goods. And first time I guess I met Coach, and later on got to play against his teams in the NBA, and always kind of followed his career and the success he had over the years. It was always a lot of fun. And I played sports growing up. That's what you did in a small town in Peru, Indiana. You played different sports. You played a lot of various sports, not just one sport they do nowadays. And I played tennis in the fall. And then I played baseball through the summer. And I can remember having a time where you play a baseball game during the day, or excuse me, have a tennis tournament during the day, a baseball game at night, and then fortunate enough with my father being the coach, had keys to the gym, I could always go back and shoot some. So one baseball game, one opponent in particular that I always followed their career, because I'm a sports fan as it is, not just enjoy playing, but I also follow, was Pat and Tom Underwood. And Pat came up to me tonight, he's here, and it it just brought back a rush of memories from playing baseball.
Hi everyone, this is Pat Underwood, Detroit Tiger pitcher, 1979 to 1983, and remember the great sports.
It is always great to welcome home. Would you welcome Andy Benson?
It's really good to be back here. Every person other than the boxer, I'm sorry, I don't want to mess with you, but every person I've watched play, I've admired from afar, and so it's really cool to get to meet them. I was a huge Dolphin fan and a big Dan Marino fan, so I watched Mark a lot. It's really good to be here. I never thought when I grew up on the north side on Old State Road that I'd ever have the opportunity to do things in sports that I've been able to do. It is a super neat honor to be here. My wife Jennifer and I got married in high school. She's from a sports family, I am not. We've been married 35 years by God's grace. We have 7 kids. Four are from 33 to 26, and then we adopted 3. We have 2 from Russia and 1 from the Ukraine. So we have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So we go from 33 to 12 with 6 grandkids, 1 on the way, and I'm married to a saint. So I was thinking about tonight, what do I share? Had the privilege of playing a long time in Major League Baseball and been around a lot of great people. I'll share a couple stories, but I really thought, as I thought about it, I landed on it's about the journey. And everybody would talk about the journey that they were on and where they came from and what they did. I will say, not to get on my mother, but she would always say when we were in the front yard playing baseball, you need to get inside, do your homework, you're never going to make any money playing a sport. She wasn't right, but I'm thankful. I graduated from college after my junior year at Evansville. I graduated from St. Louis University because I promised my mom when I signed a contract I'd finish school. I didn't tell her I was going to be 42 or it'd take 28 years, but I graduated. I had the privilege of playing at Central High School, and Paul Grace and Ken Whitby are here. A couple of my coaches. They had a huge impact on me growing up. And then I got to the University of Evansville. I was not very good at probably any of the sports. I was okay. I got $1,000 to play baseball. I got some money to play football, and I ended up playing basketball for Coach Cruz, so it was a fun freshman year playing 3 sports. But Coach Brownlee saw something in me when I was playing high school football. I got knocked out in a game at Inlow Field, maybe? I don't remember, I got knocked out. But I came back in the second half. Back in the day, if you woke up, some smelling salts, you were good. And that's when he said, I want you to come play for me. And I learned a lot over 3 years. I didn't get to Evansville throwing real hard. I got there throwing 85, 86, and then the next year 87, 88. So I wasn't a guy that everybody said, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna be a major league pitcher. I was a pre-med undergrad and just studying. My wife and I got married my sophomore year, her junior year. And as that season went on and into my junior year, I went from throwing 89, maybe 90 to the spring. We go on our spring trip and I'm throwing 101 and struck out 21 guys. And I just say that because Coach Brownlee was really happy, number one. But I went from being not even looked at, being drafted, to being the first pick in the draft and having the privilege of representing our country in the Olympic Games. And, you know, it was just super cool. Am I out of time or something? Are you selling these guys raffle tickets? Yeah. I mean, I'm just happy Maddie was not here because I'm the top baseball player here now. So I'm taking advantage of it. Put the raffle tickets down. Unless you're paying these guys to speak. I will say when we went to Korea, it was an amazing thing. Standing on the podium and getting an Olympic gold medal and the pride that we all had in our country. I just happened to be born in the right year at the right time, and the good Lord gave me the ability to do that. My wife wasn't able to be there with me. She was pregnant with our first son, but there's something about representing your country, and I hope at some point we'll get back to that, the pride in our country. I got thrown into pro baseball. I'm 21 years old. The Padres had a need. I only played 4 months in the minor leagues, and at 21, I'm in the big leagues. I wasn't ready, but I had a bunch of guys that put their arm around me that were good teammates that really put me under their wing and gave me the opportunity and taught me how to be a good pro.
He was an outstanding high school baseball, basketball player at Terre Haute Gertzmeyer. He was also valedictorian of his class in his spare time. He was a pretty good basketball player. In fact, if my stuff is right, Tommy, the Baron would have liked to have had you come to Kentucky, you know, for all this. He's got a story about, hey, we're going to hear about that. At any rate, but he was 28-2 as a pitcher. And obviously he could have gone in a lot of directions, but it was a Cleveland Indian scout who said, Tommy, I think you told him, right now you got a major league curveball, but let's develop that fastball. So he was able to sign him. And he sent him to Dubuque, Iowa. Not only the home of the Loras College Jewhawks, but the Dubuque Packers, right? Class D Midwest League. Folks, he signed with the Indians and then began an incredible 26 major league season career. He would play for the Indians, the White Sox, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Angels, and the Oakland A's. Along the way, he was a 4-time All-Star. He has the third most wins since 1900 with 288 of someone not in the Hall of Fame. Folks, talk about durability and longevity. He was the starting pitcher for the White Sox, the Pale Hose, in 1966. 23 years later, he started at Yankee Stadium for the New York Yankees. Folks, he was having a very good year in 1974 when he would become world famous. That was the year that he had that incredible injury. People thought he would never pick up a baseball again. He was 13-3, I think, right around the All-Star break. Didn't make the All-Star team, incredulously. And it was that year that he sustained an injury and became acquainted with a noted surgeon by the name of Frank Jobe. Jobe would perform the very first what would become the Tommy John surgery. And he, from that day forward, became known as the Bionic Man. Ladies and gentlemen, he is he's been honored in many ways in his beloved city of Terre Haute. He's got a key to the city. They named a baseball field after him. And Evan Bayh, his governor, gave him the highest individual honor that a Hoosier can get, Sagamore of the Wabash. Folks, we are thrilled that this inaugural class inductee is back here tonight in Evansville. Would you please welcome Mr. Tommy John.
Thank you all very much. probably wonder, what's this old man doing here sitting down on the front of the stage with a buggy with 2 dogs in it? In December of 2020, my wife Cheryl and I came down with COVID. I ended up having 2 massive blood clots in my lung. I got a disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. And I was paralyzed from my waist down for 8 months. I was in a wheelchair. I couldn't walk. Now you see me walking, and I can't walk by myself. I gotta have a walker, and I would rather have my dogs than have some like that, you're going. But that's why I'm here. And I'm getting better, and all I've got to do is I've got to get my legs back to where they're strong enough so I can swing a golf club. Because all I want to do in life is play golf with my wife as often as we can. Playing a tournament, I don't want that. But thank you all for coming out here. And, it's funny. You talked that I was valedictorian. I'll tell you how that came about. My mom and dad had to pay for my first half of my freshman year because I was not in Gerstmeyer's region. They had to pay tuition, and it cost them $33 a month. And my mom and dad said, this is costing us a lot of money. Don't putz around. Although I don't think she used putz. I think Don Rickles used that. But don't worry about it. So I said, okay. So I go in, and my first 2 years at Gerstmeyer, I never made a B. And then in my junior year, the first grading period, I'm walking across the gymnasium floor, and the dean of boys said, "Hey, Junior, come over here." He said, "I want to show me your card." I showed it to him. I had all A's and 1 B. The B was in English. And he said, "It's pretty good." He said, "You're right up at the top. You've got a chance to be valedictorian. But there's 6 girls in front of you, and you can't beat them." What? Who are you? He told me, and what he did was he flipped the switch on. I wasn't gonna let 6 girls beat me. Tell you that, I'll die before I let them beat me. And I finished first in my class. There were only 5 of us. My dad was one of them, so but when I was in high school, we were talking about, I had 50 scholarship offers in basketball. I had 1 in baseball. That kind of tells you what kind of a baseball player I was. But there were twins over in Indianapolis, Tom and Dick Van Arsdale. And Coach Rupp was after them like crazy. They ended up that day signing to go to Indiana. Rupp and his assistant coach come over to our house. And I'm out playing golf with a couple of friends, and he comes in and talks to my dad. And my dad said, "Coach, thank you very much. I don't know if Tom's going to go to college. He's getting a lot of looks in pro baseball." Not pro baseball. We've got a baseball program. Now, your son might not even be able to make our team. Well, here you're trying to get me to sign, and my mom and dad to go, "Tom, you got to go to Kentucky." And he's there telling him that I might not be able to make their baseball team. My dad looked at him and he said, "Coach, I've never liked you. You see that door? Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out." And Rupp gets up in a huff and marches out, and his assistant coach, the guy's name was Harry Lancaster.
Comes back and he says, Mr. John, Coach has been under a lot of stress, and with the Menardsdale signing and all this, you just don't take what he said to heart. My dad said, okay, thank you very much. And when he told me, I said, screw him. You know, but when I signed to go to play baseball at that beautiful resort city on the Mississippi River, Dubuque, I knew nothing. I mean, nothing. I lived in a house with a Jewish family, and I paid $5 a night for my room, and I could go to the ballpark and come back, and the mother would do, the mother would do my laundry, and I'd pay her $5, and that's how I started playing baseball. You know, now, my God, the guys are driven to the diamond and all this, and they've got workout specialists and drama queens and all that, and I just played. Was I very good? Nope. How hard did I throw? I don't know. They didn't have radar guns. And I didn't know how hard I threw until I was out in 1975, Al Campanis, general manager with the Dodgers, got a radar gun. And I clocked every pitcher in the National League. And the hardest one was James Rodney Richard, and he threw like 95 or 6. When I got back and I started pitching, I was like you. I was 83 to 88, maybe once in a while I'd sneak a 90 in there, but the pitches were never the same. You know, one would be here, one would be there, and I was, in that time when I signed in 1961, I was a 2-pitch pitcher. I had a fastball and I had a curveball. The Cleveland Scouts said my curveball was big league. It was. Could I get big league hitters out? I just had to get to the big leagues. How do I do that? I just threw fastball, curveball. I retired, that was 1961. I retired in 1989, and I was learning my 3rd pitch. I went through all those years by throwing 2 pitches. Sinker, curveball, sinker, curveball, sinker inside, sinker outside. And that's what I threw. And we had a manager with the White Sox, and his name was Eddie Stank. He taught me more about pitching than any pitching coach. And I had pitched a game, and the next day he called me into his office. He said, I got the pitching chart from last night. Let's go over last night's game. And I said, what do you mean? First hitter, what did he do? What was the pitch? What was the count? I went, oh, God. It's, come on, it's the first hitter of the game. I said, he grounded out to the shortstop on a fastball, and the count was 2-2. Okay, second hitter, what did he do? Well, he sat in there with me doing that, and then the next time I pitched, I went back in there again. This time it was a little easier. Third time, much easier. And then from then on, I could go 1 through the last hitter I faced, tell you the pitch, the count, and what he did. And I said, Eddie, why are you doing this? I said, how are you going to pitch to these hitters the 3rd and 4th time in the ball game if you don't know what you did to them in the first part of the game? That made sense to me. And that's what I did. From there on out, I could tell you what I did. The speed-wise, who cares? I mean, yeah, 106-mile-an-hour fastball, That's pretty good, but the name of the game is getting outs. You gotta get outs. I don't care if you roll the ball to the plate. You gotta get out. And I was good at rolling the ball, but I had that surgery done in 1974, and I was with the Dodgers, and we used to get a guy come into the Dodgers clubhouse all the time. Little bitty skinny guy with glasses, hobble around, and we'd talk baseball. And his name was John Woodman. He loved baseball. And we would talk pitching, talk Terre Haute, basketball, baseball, and all that. But, you know, you get to meet these guys. I was with the Dodgers, and I'm sitting on the bench, and the clubhouse kid comes down. Tommy, you got to go up to Lasorda's office. What? I look down. Lasorda's down there managing. So I go upstairs, start to go in his door, and it's locked. I knock on the door. Door opens, and here, standing in his Dodger blue sleeve sweatshirt and his tidy whities, is Don Rickles. He said, "Come in here and lock the door." I said, "Rickles, I'm not that kind of a guy." He said, "Get in there, you effing nuts." He said, "I've got to be ball boy, and you're the only guy on the team I could trust to dress me." Okay. So I got him dressed, and I looked at him, and I said, "You look pretty good to me." Pats me on the butt, and he says, "Okay, I owe you." So it goes down, he's ball boy for a couple innings, and then people started figuring out who it was, and he started to become a distraction to the game. So he just walked, gone. We go on that year, we win the pennant, and I pitched the first game of the playoffs, and the Phillies, it was Carlton against me, and we lose in like 12 innings, I think. We didn't play very well. I pitched, okay, but obviously not good enough. So the next day, Lasorda comes in after batting practice, and he starts screaming and yelling as only Lasorda can. He said, "I've hired the best sports psychologist I could find. He's going to work with you guys." Okay. Door opens, and in walks Rickles. He starts in, and the stuff that he was saying was so funny, but it was so dirty, filthy. You couldn't even say it in Vegas. But we're all laughing, and he's going down the line. Bert Hooten was here, Charlie Huff, Tommy John. And he goes, "Tommy John, Tommy effing John." That's big. And the guys go, "What was that about?" You guys said, "Something Don and I did." But he was a good guy, and he loved to rag people. And you would sing in Lasorda's office, you would see Sinatra, you would see all these guys. In fact, I'm going to the car one night, and I hear this, "Oh, Tommy, Tommy." And I turn around, and who is it? It's Cary Grant with his little girl. Who was the mother? Joe? Diane Cannon. And he said, "Yeah, we were out to the game today, and I just wanted her," and I had pitched. And that's why I was late getting to, because whenever I pitched, I would ice my arm and do all these things, and it was a long time. But Cary had you could cut your finger on the crease of his pants. And he had this sweater tied around his neck, and his little penny loafers, and all that. And he just said, I just thought you pitched the best. But you would get guys like this all the time. And, you know, they want to talk to me. Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. And that's one thing my dad told me. As I signed, he said, Tom, remember who you are and where you come from. No matter, you may be in the Hall of Fame, but you'll only be Tommy John from Terre Haute, Indiana. And you know what? I'm proud of it. Thank you all very much.
You see that door over there? Don't let it hit you in the ass on the way out.